So let's say we have some kind of an amazing idea. We think it may be a hit, or maybe a hit for sure. That's what we think. But what is the next step? This is an interesting question. So some guys, even today, say to me, I have a big idea, it's an amazing idea, can you just connect me to investors? So I said, hold your horses. Did you make some progress with this idea? You are ready for investors? Not so much? Okay, so maybe this is not the right approach to start with. Maybe we should focus on developing the product, or maybe not. And maybe the last thing, a lot of times, the first-time entrepreneurs saying, maybe we should just lock ourselves in the office and concentrate on building a business plan, this big kind of document, a lot of Excel sheets and projections for the 7th year in a row, all of revenues and additional elements. So these are just the questions of first-time entrepreneurs a lot of times. Let's answer this question later on. Maybe we'll get to the conclusion just from the next slides. So let's take just an interesting story to demonstrate the Lean Startup way in contrary to some other concepts which may be not so common today. But when I ask what does it take for a startup to succeed, a lot of time I get the answer saying the #1 ingredient for success is the team. So let's start with a brilliant founder. This guy is called Mike, and he's MIT alumnus. A very cool guy. This is really cool guy because he used to be an experienced executive in some high-tech company, very successful one, and he's having some kind of outstanding credentials following his an excellent experience with this company. And he's a really cool guy. Now, one day, like many of us, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, he has this killer product idea. This is the bug. Whenever I see entrepreneurs as having some kind of a lot of ideas and these ideas really bugs them, I know you are now have this disease, this virus that you can't maybe get rid of. So he's really passionate about this idea, and he's trying to make it, right? So he knows how to test his idea. The common sense saying we need to test it somehow, right? So how do we test it? We do some market research. There is nice companies like Gartner, for example, in the IT space, and some other companies dealing with market research. They can help. They can forecast a few years from now how big is the market. If they need some additional consulting services, they can provide us specific forecasts, no problem at all, right? So he's doing some market research, and the research looks fantastic. He moves forward. Now he writes another thing, a fantastic book, and something very, very thick, very big one called the business plan, right? So he's writing a business plan. This document nobody is really paying a lot of attention to. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. But some guys maybe write some business plans. So maybe we should start with a business plan. So he's writing this document. So great, based on his credential, fantastic research, fantastic business plan, now he is going to secure the final piece of this in order to make it happen. And this one, maybe you're guessing, is funding, right? So he's really this brilliant guy, has success in approaching investors, and has got this funding, money in hand. He's getting started. Well, now, what's the next step after you get the money? Right, you start building your startup, right? Construction, building the startup. What does it mean to build a startup? So he's working on the product and the marketing and additional elements, and he's getting to some kind of headlines following his PR, and even invited to give some kind of keynote talks in some conferences. This is a great startup. This is a brilliant guy. He's going to make it. Some good investors are picking him up, right? So this guy Mike and his startup are on the roll, isn't it? Well, basically, when we think of it, how likely his business is to succeed really. So despite experience, despite the research, the market research looked fantastic, despite the business plan and the investors and everything else, Mike slipped up. And the question is why? And this is a common phenomenon. Guys have invested in research, in planning, in building companies, and not successful, right? So the question is why? We know that most startups fail. This is a fact of life. The statistics vary, but you know, most startups fail. This is fact of life. Let's start to understand, to investigate a bit further about this kind of phenomenon of startup failures. And let's take maybe these 4 case studies very briefly to try to analyze a bit better. So Wave 1 more than 10 years ago, this was a startup having $800 million in fundraising from Sequoia Capital. Not sure if you heard Sequoia, but if not, maybe you should. Sequoia is one of the leading VC venture capitalists worldwide with a lot of success. And these guys, Badplan founders, also very successful guys, and having done some exits before. And they started, they wanted to sell some grocery, food, etc. Products over the web. At the time, they were the first ones. And they were thinking, oh, we are going to have a hit. It's amazing. People will buy food, etc. like crazy, like hell. No problem. We will do it. We'll make it. What they did after they took this money, they invested a lot in infrastructure. What does it mean? They built automatic warehouses, all the distribution, the facilities for distribution, and all this system conveying these grocery foods all over the U.S. Some investment in marketing, in PR, and additional product and service operation. So they invested a lot in this infrastructure. They did some kind of a short beta test just to verify that this service is working per the specifications technically. There's no bugs are there. And then after this short beta, they launched dramatically. And what happened? Just a few months afterwards, they collapsed. They just had this Chapter 11 or something like this, and they were gone out of business. And this is, you know, causal kind of failure of a startup that seems to be very, very promising. The second example is about smokeless cigarettes. They also lost a lot of money. They were assuming the customer to buy this, you know, cigarettes without smoke is the one that is really smoking the regular cigarette. But they didn't pay enough attention to the fact that the ones that really are bothered with this smoke is not the one that's buying the cigarettes or maybe their potential buyer, but this is the ones that are sitting next to this guy. So they didn't accurately identify the customer, and there was their failure. Later on, by the way, both Web1 and smokeless, or not Web1, the grocery online sales and the smokeless cigarettes were successful in a different form, but at the time, these startups were failing very severely. Maybe one of the most famous failures is Iridium. This was a consortium of some giants like Motorola and others, and they were thinking maybe we should have some kind of a satellite a phone which will enable you to get in touch with anyone you want anywhere on the globe, even if you are located on an island in the Caribbean or let's say in the Pacific Ocean, no problem at all. Iridium is satellite based, you have the connection from anywhere. But first the cost, the price for the user is huge, and the second thing is the you know, the handset is very cumbersome. It's a big kind of handset, and at the same time the cellular networks were really making a lot of progress, No, they didn't have this coverage that each and every point on the globe can be connected without interruption. You know, when I was living back then in Dallas, Texas, from Dallas to some other cities, Fort Worth, I know on the way there is a spot where there is no connection. Okay, but still, it's good enough for a lot of things, and the price is making sense. And the handset is much more, cute, kind of like a handset comparing to this giant handset of Iridium. So they just assumed a lot of things which turned wrong, and they were having a huge kind of failure with this Iridium. Years afterwards, they were just selling their patents and trying to come back just a year ago or something like this. And the last one is Better Place. Better Place, Israeli-based kind of a startup, you know, Rami Gazit. And they were trying to have this electric car where they targeted the mainstream customers, saying, you know, the leasing companies in Israel and abroad, multiple sites, and trying to have this kind of situation where the customer has some kind of fears. You know, if the distance that we need to drive is very limited, what would happen if I'm getting stuck in the middle and the issue is not very clear, and then even if it's you know, low probability, but still the fears exist. So they were trying to address these mainstream customers, while on the same time Tesla in the US were trying to address a very different kind of market, just the high market, rich guys. And they were having maybe a few batteries on the same car, meaning the extended range for this car, or maybe more peace of mind for the driver. And they made it there, and from there they made some kind of additional progress. But anyway, Better Place, assuming customer behavior will be fantastic for them from the start, addressing just the mainstream customers from the start, was not proving right in reality. And of course, the failure was very severe, and we are very sorry for this one, of course. So why do they fail? There is some kind of a research coming from the Startup Genome project, interesting project trying to investigate startups, and they were saying the most consistent predictor of failure was startups engaging in premature scaling. Premature scaling. And this is even more significant in internet startups. And the question is, what the heck is premature scaling? So premature scaling can be having multiple forms. Let's get some examples. One of them is overspending on customer acquisition too early. What does it mean? For example, we invest a lot of money in advertisements. We invest in advertisements, so we get customers on board, we acquire customers, but customers are not not having some kind of feeling for the value they get from our startup, so they drop after some time, and this is not a valid business model. So overspending early on, very early in the game, just on customer acquisition, before we nail down our assumptions that we provide real value for this customer, is premature scaling. Second thing is hiring too many employees too early. For example, if you hire a VP sales, VP sales is someone that really needs to follow some kind of articulated needs and some clear value proposition, and can help shape it out, of course, but still is not on the same way as a founder usually. And if you hire too many executives and other employees too early, before we nail down some assumptions, critical assumptions, this is maybe too early. Focus too much on engineering, and this is very typical for guys coming from, you know, Technion, MIT, and really expert in technology and engineering. They in love, and this is trivial a lot of times with the technology and with the product, and they invest a lot of time saying, oh, we need to perfect this product, we need to invest a bit more. Well, let's have a few months more before we get to the market, just let me complete a bit of more a few features before we get to the market. So focusing on too much on engineering too early and not getting to the market early enough. This is again premature scaling. And the rest too much money. From time to time, we raise too much money, which enable us to forget our need to focus on the market and on customers, and this is a real problem. So let's get into the process of a typical concept failure. And the main element here is we assume we know everything up front. We know everything. We know both what is the problem of the customer, who is the customer, identification of the customer, and then we know not just the problem and the scenario where the problem occurs and the frequency of the problem and how acute is the problem. We know or even what is the answer, the product, the solution to address this customer problem. So we assume everything is clear, everything is perfectly known, and we just need to execute the plan. What plan? The business plan, right? So maybe we are developing in what is called the waterfall process. This is the ones you see on the screen right now, requirements, design, etc. Maybe we are even using agile development, but still we assume we know the problem. And we know the customer, and we have assumptions which we really assume are facts. And this is a trap. So this is the typical concept failure, and we don't want to continue with this one. In reality, and this is a very important kind of sentence coming from Steve Blank, no business plan survives the first contact with the customer. And this is reality. And I know I'm working with a lot of startups. And from time to time, some guys are saying, "Oh, we know everything. I'm the customer myself. Wow, I think this is a problem, this is a few problem, everyone thinks the same, right?" So wrong, it's not correct. And your assumptions on the business plans on the 7th year, this is your revenue, is irrelevant for the starting point, for the early stage, very early stage kind of startup, which really needs to approve some assumptions before we move forward. So spending money, energy on product development, marketing too early is a waste. And the Lean Startup is really talking about waste because this is the key element of Lean thinking at large, which the Lean Startup is part of. So no business plan survives first contact with the customer. Even if you recall just this sentence, I think this is an important takeaway. And again, basically, the startups say they run out of money because of premature scaling, and the end status is lack of customers, not enough customers, and this is the real issue. And it's not the product development. The risk of product development, there is some risk there. Sometimes technology is risky, I know. But still, most of the startups, the more dominant element is failure of customer which are not coming. Okay? So the question is this: if we've mastered the product management process, and I know in product management, there are a lot of methodologies how to manage product management. The question is, why can't we have the same for managing the customer process on the early stage of the startup? So this is the question that the Lean Startup is trying to address, and coming with the customer development methodology, which is the heart of the Lean Startup, is trying to address this specific question. And one more slide about this excellent execution of a bad plan. Bad plan is a plan which is, invalidated, and we don't bother to validate, and we just go for the execution. And the question is, if customer won't come, does it really matter that the product looks amazing and the time and budget is met and the product quality is perfect, no bugs? The quality, I mean, no bugs. It's just per the specification. So this kind of metrics, meeting budget and time, I'm not saying it's not important. It's important. And for an established company trying to have an additional, a new version, incremental kind of a version of a new product to a known kind of target customers, that's fine. That can be this can be a set of valid metrics. But when we are talking about a startup, the situation is very different. We need to have some kind of a different metrics to measure our progress, and the most important things are related to making sure that customers will come. So we need to stop wasting people time using this wrong kind of planning or concept based on heavy planning before we launch and all this. And the Lean Startup is trying to address all this with the concept, a very interesting kind of concept developed in the last years, let's say 5 years, more or less. Started 10 years ago, but 5 years ago, last 5 years is really rapid development and implementation worldwide of the Lean Startup. I must say that today the Lean Startup rules the entrepreneurship space. And everyone is talking, and some are even implementing. A lot of guys try to implement at least the Lean Startup. It's not very easy. And there are some principles and methods and tools. It's very detailed and a lot of contributors. And this is, as I said, the number one methodology in the startup world today. But before we get maybe a bit more, and I'm not going to get too much into the Lean Startup today as a methodology, just one thing, this is the concept. What is a startup anyway in the eyes of the Lean Startup? So a startup is a temporary organization designed to search, and the search is important word. What are we searching in a startup? We are searching for what is called a repeatable and scalable business model. Repeatable and scalable business model. So we are not here to sell a one-time, let's say, to Christmas time, or doing some, I don't know, some other things. We want to search. We want to search for a repeatable and scalable business model, which means we can repeat it. We can, if we get maybe some investment, we can repeat it and grow our business because it's scalable and repeatable business model. Let's take some additional definition. This is coming from Eric Ries, and he's saying the startup is a human institution designed to deliver a new product or service under conditions of extreme uncertainty. So uncertainty is the common denominator of all startups. And you know, maybe some of you already have some experience in startups, and you know, startup is a chaos. There's a lot of chaos. And wherever we see this kind of chaos, uncertainty, where a lot of question marks and a lot of risky hypotheses lies there, this is a startup. So it has nothing to do with the size of the company. Even in a big company, we can have a startup if we're addressing a new kind of target customer with a new kind of offering which is very different, and there's additional elements like this. So we need to just eliminate the risk. Risk is the one that is following the uncertainty. The risks are huge, and we want to eliminate the risk as soon as possible. And as soon as possible meaning our advantage as a startup is our nimbleness. We need to move fast. The bigger guys are moving very slowly. Our advantage is that we can move fast. If we can't move fast, let's not make any startup. And what we need to do as we move fast is to address this risk and then reduce the risks as soon as possible. How do we do it? The key magic word in here is called validation. We need to validate our risk assumptions which are making up our business model. So validation is the key word, and I really encourage you to get into the practice of how do we do validation within the Lean Startup. And this really can contribute a lot to your understanding of how can we really make a progress. How do we do it? Just on a nutshell, we get out of the building. This is number one. We can't do it in the building. So what does it mean, get out of the building? We need to get in touch, to direct contact with customers. Customers are the one that we can learn from, not always by just asking them. We need to ask them, we need to interview them, but we need to watch them, and we need to really try to have some kind of a fast process with them, trying to see some kind of patterns in both feedback related to the problem we are solving and to the solution we provide. So basically, the Lean Startup is saying part, the one which is involves planning, business planning, and market sizing, and everything else which is done in the office, at the office, this is not the #1 priority. We need to do it, but let's do it as fast as possible and get rid of it, because we need to get out there, out to the field to meet customers and then test with them their serious approach about this problem. How much does they care about solving this problem or about having our solution? And we need to see some kind of proof, not just talking, but behavior of customers. So here is the overall process of this Lean Startup concept. And there are two big milestones. One of them is called the problem-solution fit, and the second is the product-market fit. And this is the first element, which is searching. As we said, the startup is searching. And on the right side, we see this later stage, which is execution. It's just after we get to the product market fit milestone within this search process. So the first element of the search process is the problem solution fit. And the question we ask here is, do we address any problem or need worth solving? Is this really something we care about? So if it is a problem, we need to see some kind of a must-have approach from customer to this problem, and we need to see for them some kind of demonstration of paying readiness. And when I say paying readiness, when we start off, it's not just paying with money. Sometimes they can pay with time, or they can pay with even recommendations, their reputation. When they recommend me, they give their name and refer me to some other guys to meet with and to elaborate on this discussion, on the problem, whatever. So they are giving their names. They are saying, yeah, I'm serious. I'm really thinking this is something interesting, or at least I think it may have interest. So I'm giving you some referral to other guys. And if it's really interesting for me, maybe I'm okay to spend some time later on with you to discuss first, and let's schedule it up front, and we are really hot about it, and let's continue to be in touch, and I'm in love with your vision, etc. So basically, we need to see some kind of demonstrated paying readiness, and this is important because a lot of times people say something and they don't mean it. They are just polite. And this is the first milestone. The second one is product market fit. And this is a situation where we build something people really want. And you know, Paul Graham, he is the one that really was the first accelerator founder. This is Y Combinator in the US. And he has a very short kind of slogan saying, build different. Okay, just build it, build something people want, and that's from there you're okay. And we can elaborate on this. For example, Waze, they didn't have some kind of a revenue model very successful. At least they started with some kind of revenue model and they pivoted away. The most interesting element is how can we build something people really want? How do we know we want it? They want it, they use it. So we need to try to have some kind of a milestone called product market fit as the second milestone. And here we have validation, which is divided into two. First is qualitative, where we interview, we get in touch with guys directly. And the second, just after we have this qualitative validation, we continue to some kind of surveys and additional quantitative data. So this is the search, and after we find this holy grail called product market fit, which means, yeah, we have developed something people really want, they are running after us, and we are up to something, and we have a repeatable and scalable business model, then we can scale and invest a lot of money in execution, and maybe where we can have some kind of a business plan then, and additional elements. So basically, what we suggest in the Lean Startup, we need to do it by a fast, iterative experimentation. And startup basically it's a big experiment, and the way to go is experimenting about this validation, this assumption that we need to validate. So the process is called validated learning, and the output is the scalable and repeatable business model, as we said before. Here is the cycle of the Lean Startup. We start with some kind of an idea, okay. We build some kind of an MVP, minimal viable product, something that we can show to customers and learn from them, get some feedback and learn, and then we want to measure some kind of, if we're talking methodology in managing startups, and this is what the Lean Startup actually is, we need to have some kind of metrics in place, and therefore we need to measure our progress. And our to say our assumption is okay, is valid, is only after we measured and we have some kind of proof in place. And then after we measure, we get some data, we can learn and decide should we continue with these assumptions and move on to additional element of the business model to validate, or maybe to a growth assumption, whatever. Or maybe we should pivot away and change something critical in our business strategy, in the business model. So the question is, what do we need to validate? We need to validate the entire business model, and we need to start, this is important, with the riskiest assumptions. Why do we need to start with the riskiest assumptions? Because we have a lot of assumptions. And as we say, time is of essence, and we need to focus. Focus is a very, very important element in startup. Focus. Make it very narrow. Make it very focused. So we start with specific assumptions, which are the riskiest assumptions. Okay, so we define a business model. We start with identifying riskiest assumptions, and then we go to our way to validate it, and we validate it also in some kind of a process called starting with a definition of an experiment. It can be an interview, it can be some kind of a movie MVP or a clip, or can be I don't know, something else, Kickstarter, whatever. And then we test it, and then we analyze the insights. So this is the process. But the question is first, before we were saying all the time business model, what the heck is a business model per the Lean Startup? It's a bit different from what a lot of guys used to call the business model, which is how do we make money out of it. It's a bit extended view. And the question is, what is business model and how can we describe it in a way that fits this process, which means fast iterations. Having a very concise kind of list of assumptions, identify the riskiest ones, and really iterate on this. So the business model per the Lean Startup is the following. It's made of three elements. It's how organization creates value, how do we deliver it, get it to the hands of the customer or the user, and the last thing is how do we capture value from these users or customers. And the capture value is really maybe the third priority. First thing is how do we create, deliver the value, and really create something that is valuable per the eyes of the customer. So these three elements are really making up the business model, making the business model. And actually, the business model, if we look at this kind of definition, is your business strategy. So this is it, the business strategy. And the startup is coming up with tools to describe this in a very visual and concise manner. Just one page, which is called the business model canvas, invented by the Swiss guy called Dr. Alexander Osterwalder. And he's saying, okay, we have a left side, which is a kind of a backstage view of the startup, and there is a right side, which is more customer-oriented or market-oriented. For example, on the right side, we can see which customer segments are we approaching, what channels do we plan to use in order to get to these channels, and additional elements. So this is the business model canvas. And after this canvas, there's a guy called Ash Maurya, and he followed up and adjusted a bit this canvas and created what is called the Lean canvas. Very similar in a way, but still some kind of tweaks and changes, which are making it even more valuable for startups just starting. And he's talking about his 9 building blocks on this one pager, starting with a clear articulation of the problem. This is number 1, as on the screen you see it right now. And as I said, focus, just the top 3 problems you want to address. And not just the problems, but the main question is, how does it really, this problem or pain or need is being addressed today? What alternatives exist today, and what is the gap in the market when we look at this kind of alternatives? So say everything has some kind of alternative, probably. Maybe it's not the direct competition, maybe yes. Maybe just pen and pencil, maybe, I don't know, some other alternatives. But the question is, where do they fall short, these alternatives? Where do they doing fine, and where do they fall short? And we need to analyze the problem in a deep manner in order to make sure we are really understanding this space of the customer and the problem. And once again, this can be divided to right side and left side. The right is more market-oriented. The left is related more to the product and some internal elements like the cost structure, etc. So this is a fast example, and we will not go into every element in here, but just a very brief one. On the left, you can see the problem of this startup by Ash Maurya, the ones that invented this tool. He's saying, the customer segments on the right and the problem on the left are going hand in hand. Parents have some kind of a problem, When you are a parent, you want to share photos and videos, and it's time consuming. You are a busy, busy parent. And you need to share the photos, videos, because the grandma is looking for it, right? So we don't have much time, free time. And this is basically what is called a two-sided market, because we have parents creating these photos and videos of these little kids. And on this other side, we have viewers, which can be the grandma and other viewers. And there are some existing alternatives, but they suck. They have some kind of an issue, each one of them. And he's getting into some details, but we are not getting in here. And then there is some kind of a solution he wants to provide, and the value proposition is the fastest way to share photos and videos, and the additional elements are there. He's trying to calculate the cost structure, the revenue streams, to see where is the break-even, more or less. So this is some kind of a business planning, business strategy on a nutshell, very concise kind of a business strategy. So far we've discussed this Lean Startup approach and its tools. Now let's get back to the question. Okay, we know we want to make progress, but the question is, what is progress in a more specific terms of a startup? So as we said before, a Lean Startup is a managerial concept for startups. How do we manage startups? And because it is a managerial concept, it is based on metrics and evidence. And whenever you go in a startup, you have a lot of times a lot of illusions, a lot of things you think are right, but turned out wrong. So we are looking for evidence-based decisions, and this guy, Edward Deming, the famous Edward Deming, saying, in God we trust, all other bring data. Very clear, right? So the question is, where do we stand, and how can we really, as an entrepreneur, define the path for progress? Which milestones should we have in our planning if it's not, the business planning, as we said before, it's irrelevant for very early stage entrepreneurs. So the question we are saying, what we want to get from this is, for entrepreneurs, how much progress did we make? Some kind of a tool to evaluate this. What we made already, and what is the next level we need to approach to get into. As an accelerator, we also have some interesting questions for startups we are hosting. The question is this startup doing well? Do they really understand what is progress in the world of startups? And we said progress is not, for example, hiring some additional guys and having some investment. This is some, maybe, investment, some kind of progress, but in early days, this is not the key element of a progress. So nailing down some assumptions, critical assumptions, risk assumptions, this is the progress. So do they demonstrate accountability and persistence towards milestones which are really making this progress? Okay, and the last one is the investor, and he's also asking a very interesting question. The question is, what is your maturity level as a startup? I want VC, venture capital, a lot of times we say they are investing in risks-related startups, but they want to have reduced set of risk. As much as risk is reduced, they are feeling more comfortable. And there is a trade-off, of course, what is the stage of the startup versus the risks left to reduce. But if we get a startup early on as an investor, and they already reduced the risks a lot, we are feeling much comfortable in order to get into this investment. So all these stakeholders, entrepreneurs, accelerator investors, are asking this question: where do we stand, and how can we learn what is the real status of this startup? But then let's have another thought in here. We talked about investors. Is investor really a must? I don't know. There is a bootstrapping kind of concept, sometimes very successful. Sometimes in order to scale later on you need some kind of investment, yes, that's for sure. But Minecraft did well just recently. This huge kind of exit, and they bootstrapped all the way down to this exit, and I think the founder is just keeping about 70% of this huge valuation of Minecraft in the exit. So maybe investors are not a must, but anyway, a lot of time acceleration programs, accelerators today are very common within startups. And there is, the process of acceleration, accelerator programs. They work with guys a lot on pitching and a lot of other things, and at the end they have a very hilarious kind of day, which is called the demo day. So at the demo day, this celebration, we see nice demos, we see shining slides, some teams look very impressive, but the real question is, did they systematically reduce the risks? What risks did they already reduce, and what is the proof they reduced it or removed it? What is their maturity level? So this is the set of questions, interesting, to really evaluate the status of a startup ending this acceleration program, and can be serving the acceleration program for self-evaluation even for themselves. So let's get back for raising funds, because a lot of times acceleration programs saying, okay, we need to have these demo days to start this process of raising funds with investors. So just let's be clear about investments. If you are not mature enough as a startup, your feasibility to get investment is very low, not to say not exists. So your startup maturity is related very closely to your ability to raise funds. And moreover, let's say there are some investors that you can deal with, even if you are not very mature. But if you're getting with less proof and less maturity and more risks, even if you get to the investor, your terms are not going to be very good. So for your success as a startup, you're better off when you get to nail down some assumptions and reduce the risks and have maturity in place. When you try to address investors, if this is your model. Of course, bootstrapping is an option. So the tool we are talking about, the investment readiness level, is based on maturity and readiness models. And here is an example of a maturity model, saying this is called CMM, Capacity Maturity Model. Carnegie Mellon University in the US invented this one. And they are saying there are some stages for an organization for process maturity. For example, first level, you have ad hoc kind of processes, then you have disciplined processes, you have then standardized processes, and you have additional levels. So you can have some kind of a definition of maturity levels in the organization. This is just one example. Here is another example called Technology Readiness Level of NASA. NASA and the DOD, the Department of Defense in the US, and they were saying before we get anything for our equipment on the air, or on the space, we need to make sure they follow a very strict kind of process. So they defined maturity levels called technology readiness level, and each and every element that is going to onboard this ship, spaceship, or whatever, needs to follow these definitions. Okay, and then they have a lot of success with this kind. This was a revolution in NASA, and still being used as far as I know. The technology readiness level was a common, or is still a common understanding of technology status, project maturity, addressing risks, and used to make decisions concerning technology funding and transition later on, not just about making sure that this is suitable for onboarding the space ship. But technology is only one side of the issue, of the spectrum we need to put attention to, and maybe NASA is more focused on technology. But in business, we need to put attention to the customer validation or the market validation. And here we are talking about nailing down assumptions related to the business side. So risks, when we say we have multiple risks in a startup, we have first and foremost is the value assumption. The value assumption saying, yes, we identified correctly this customer, the target customer, or the target users. And these users, customers, really value our solution. And we nail down this value assumption. And this is very important. And before we scale up, as I said, not premature scaling, it's really worse, it's really problematic. We need to scale down this value assumption. So this is the risk, first risk of a startup. Second is, of course, some kind of technical feasibility, a product risk. And the last one is growth and market size, related a lot of times to the channels. How do we get to the market? How do we create demand? What is our growth engine? Is it virality or other growth engines? So this kind of risks we need to address in a startup. Of course, as I said, most startups fail because of lack of customers, so the value assumption is the number one key in here. So we said about, we presented this process of the Lean Startup, once again, this is the basic for the tool we are talking about now. This is the Investment Readiness Level. And based on this process, Steve Link just came up with this tool, and on the last Lean Startup conference last December, and had some nice success with this one. And this is a tool based, of course, on the validation concepts. So here is some kind of milestones a startup can use to define progress. And as I said before, accelerators can use it, investors can use it, whatever. And let's see what is this IRL investment readiness level milestones all about. By the way, this is not like a Bible or something like this. This is just one version, and we'll see on the next slide some customization of this. But this is a very nice kind of starting point. So let's see. The first level is the theory we said before. Theory should be very short and brief. We should move to the practice level, to the validation very fast. But if we just complete the first pass of the business model canvas or the Lean canvas, okay, we have gained IRL number one. That's fine. Then we have maybe some kind of market competitive analysis. Maybe this is also part of the theory, in part theory. So this is number two. Then we get to the problem and solution validation, which is more focused on the problem side. And then we get to some kind of what is called the low fidelity minimal viable product. The low fidelity minimal viable product is not a real product. It's not a real service or product. A lot of times it's just something which demonstrates for the customer what is going to get and how it's going to work, and what is the value is going to get there, and what are the processes to be used when using this solution, whatever. It can be some kind of a movie or some kind of presentation in B2B, or can be some kind of demonstration in other ways. But this is a next level. The next level is we really need to make progress, and we need to validate the product market fit, which is all about solutions and channels. If we talked before about problem, here we are talking about solution, and then we can make progress and really, you know, this is an iterative process, and we can go to the high fidelity MVP. Maybe you can do it even earlier. High fidelity MVP is a real product starting very small, but a real product that can bring real value to the customer. And here we are addressing additional, very important kind of an assumption, which is the price. Whenever I'm going out to validate some kind of a high fidelity MVP, which is really can be served as something valuable for the customer to be used for by the customer, I'm naming a specific price, and I'm asking the customer, I want to register you right away for this service or product, and this is the price. Can we go move forward with it? So pricing is another kind of assumption, and this is the time to validate it. And later on, we continue with the left side of the canvas, which is making some assumptions about internal elements, costs, etc. And the last one is related to the growth engine, and here we have a lot of metrics related, for example, for viral coefficient and additional metrics about growth. So this is a scale related to validation and based on some kind of a process called Lean Startup, right? One thing important is that this is customizable, of course. So we can say we have this ruler, this investment readiness level specific for industry. For medical devices, we have one specific process of making progress, and we can adjust this scale to address this industry. Maybe for clean tech we have another one. For web mobile we have another one, and this is the way to go. And this already was done, and there are various different versions of this scale for various industries. And even each accelerator, you know, to make some kind of a common language between the accelerator and its startups can address this customization issue and customize this scale to fit its needs. So here is one suggested. I think this is coming from Life Science Angels in the U.S. A guy called Alan May. And he was working with life science startups, and he was defining with them, trying to define for this industry of medical devices a different kind of scale. And for example, you can see here in the number in the middle here, it's reimbursement. If you get to the stage of really nailing down your assumption that this can be having a reimbursement from the HMOs or from the, you know, Kupot Olim, whatever, from government, whatever. So this is another stage in your progress. So you can define it per industry. And let's take one quick example because we are approaching the end. And this is a startup in this healthcare domain. And then they are saying, yeah, let's have some kind of a new way to create a magnetic compression anastomosis with improved outcomes. So you can see this blood vessels or blood items, and then they can have some kind of a solution to put it together. Doesn't matter what is the technology really about. The issue here is they just try to have some milestones in place. They said, okay, we achieved these milestones. Here are the proof. The proof that we really address these milestones, and we have this value proposition, we have additional elements that we created, and we nailed it down with customers, and the outcome is IRL number 6 on this investment readiness level ruler, and we validate it, and we have proof, and we can provide proof for each and every level on this IRL. Okay? So this is some kind of a startup evaluating first yourself and then presenting to angels to get some funding. By the way, it was done also with the NIH, the National Institute of Health in the US, and they adopted this kind of approach. So another example, and as I said, even within healthcare there are some sub-industries. So this is therapeutics, and they are addressed it a bit differently, and then they have some specifics like proof of relevance in this IRL defined, understand key therapeutic liabilities and evidence of therapeutic effect, so they have their own. For each industry and sub-industry, we can define the same specific adjustable scale. One thing important is to remember that sometimes we have pivots. Pivot is a change in our business strategy, in our business model. And a key change, for example, we are addressing another problem that we were not aware of, but it's more related, more important to the same customer. So this is a pivot, for example. And if we are doing this, we are not progressing on this scale linearly, but we start from scratch once again once we have a new business model. So this is important, and hopefully on the last one, we're really on our way to success and make it there. Here is Sacramento Angels in the US using the IRL for screening, analyzing many startups fast. Angels and the investors, they see a lot of startups. But if you can develop a common language with startups, so you're better off. So for screening, for guidance and mentoring, and for communicating with startups, they use it. So this is beneficial for these guys. Fun, Startup North, our own in the Galilee, own acceleration model is also using some kind of stage process, and having kind of some kind of IRL level as a milestone between these levels. When we start off, we start with an entrepreneur, which is maybe without a team and without any customers or users. And then the next level, before we get to this level, we need to see that this guy already nailed down main assumptions related to customer problem, solution, value proposition, before we can make to the next level, which is accelerate. And then we get to more advanced kind of MVPs and continue on with later on with the goals. Oops, sorry. Okay, to sum it up, Investment Readiness Level is a new startup, lead startup tool, evidence-based, create a common language for investment. Even corporate innovation groups within the corporate can have this language of innovation be used there. Very flexible and can be adjusted per industry. And basically, it's part of a much larger suite of tools. There are additional tools. This is not the when you try to judge the maturity of a startup, you can use tools like this one can help you, but it's not the only element that you need to take into account, of course, and you can take additional elements like your own intuition, judgment, whatever. Basically, we want to, for accelerators, to get rid of the demo day syndrome, where this is a pitch contest and the ceremony, and not clear about about addressing these business risks. And we were trying to have some kind of evidence-based tool to support it. And I don't know if you saw this cute kind of movie called Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt. He was with the Oakland team for football, and he was really, this group didn't have the luxury of a huge budget, but managing by some kind of a persistent analysis of evidence of which a player is doing what, and the contribution, how much contribution does this guy is making. They drafted the best team, and they really won this league, even with lousy kind of salaries and not a lot of budget, and really defeated the big guys just by managing by evidence and not just out of the blue. So this is it. Thank you very much for being with me and with Oded. And now we are opening up for questions. Oded, you take it from here.
Yeah, hi guys. please write any questions if you have them for the session. Okay, just a second. I can see someone raise the hand, but I can't see what does it mean. Try to write it in the tick box over there, where it says questions. Rami, can you see the tick box over there?
Yes, I can see the questions.
Okay. Any questions, guys? Rami, can you see the question over there?
Yeah, repeatable model. So repeatable model is something that you pour a little money and you can replicate your success. You can put more money and you replicate your success even bigger. So it's something that is not a one-time kind of an operation. For example, let me give you an example of one-time operation. You buy a lot of ads, advertisement, and because you buy this advertisement, you get customers. But after you stop buying a lot of advertisement and you get to the regular level of spending, which makes sense for you, no customers or very few customers are getting back to you. Another example is, seasonal kind of success. So, for example, you made it in Christmas time and you sold some kind of a beautiful something for Christmas, in Christmas time. But after Christmas time, no real demand is really persistent exists there. So if we have some kind of a one-time success, depends on some specific circumstances, this is not a repeatable and scalable business model. Repeatable model is something that we can replicate over and over again. If we get the money, we can scale and repeat it over and over with success. סמיכה ליניארית עם ההשקעה. Not sure I understand this question. Basically, yes. Yeah. What we mean is, if you get more money, you get more funds. Maybe you get it from customers. You don't have to get it from investors, but you get more funds. You can grow even bigger. For example, if you take Facebook, they were having a repeatable business model. Why? Or a repeatable success, because they had the first campus in the US. It was success. They continued to the second campus in the US, it was success. And there they continued to all of the campuses all over the US, and it was a success all over again. And after they finish with this one, they get it to the full nationwide in the US, and then they continue to the worldwide. So wherever you look, the success is not occasional. It's not depending on some kind of sporadic circumstances. It's linear with with time and with additional investment, of course, a lot of times. It depends on your growth model. Is there any recommended way to organize a test for my product? Yeah, so test for your product, basically, as I said, you have two steps in testing your product. One is called low fidelity MVP, and the second is called high fidelity MVP. Low fidelity MVP is when you don't really have a product that can make that a customer or user can make use of. So it's just something that can demonstrate what he's going to get after there is a product or service. And it may be, sometimes a clickable demo. It can be, some kind, even some kind of a landing page. It's just explaining your case on your problem you're solving, and some kind of a video demonstrating it. So this is the first test. The second one, it is the high fidelity MVP, and here we need really to provide the real service, but can be reduced. Let me give you an example, a very interesting example of an MVP testing this. In the US, there was a startup trying to provide guidance for farmers. Farmers suffer a lot from diseases on, on some fruit trees, etc. And they are losing a lot of money because of these diseases of the fruits. This startup was inventing some kind of a very sophisticated camera that from the air, let's say using airplanes, they are photographing these plants of trees, of roots, and then they analyze it using very sophisticated kind of reasoning algorithmic software, and provide actionable insights for the farmer, saying you need to do this or do that in order to prevent this disease, which is just starting to develop before it hits all the trees. So this is a very nice startup, and they thought, okay, what can we do in order to make progress in testing our product with the customers, validation. So of course they started with validating the problem, discussing the problem, etc. And they got validation because farmers say, yeah, if you solve it, that's good. That's, I'm going to pay here. I want to register. I want to devote time to this. This is fine. But now they need to provide the illustration of the product itself, the service itself. How can we do it? So they said, okay, we'll do it by having the product, the camera, the sophisticated camera, but we'll do it, the camera is not the most sophisticated camera, it's a bit less sophisticated. But still, we need to invest in the camera development, R&D, the production, everything will do it, a bit less. Their mentor, Steve Blank in this case, said to them, oh guys, wait a second. The goal here is to demonstrate your solution to the customer. So don't rush away just getting into a top-down solution in order to demonstrate it. Let's think creatively out of the box and see if we can have another way to demonstrate the solution for the end customer as if we have it, but without having it, even not a reduced set of features, for example, a camera which is not as good. So instead of having this camera on a flight, on a plane, let's rent services from satellites. Satellites can have, you know, this kind of ability to zoom in, very sophisticated cameras, whatever. They can do it. They will do it. We'll take our software and we analyze it and provide it to the farmers. And this is the way they went. They go. And they provided this illustration to the farmer. The farmer said, yeah, I get this information soon before the disease is spreading out. Okay, that's what I want. I want to pay you. So this is a validation of this product before we get to the you know, the high fidelity MVP, which is really or before we get to the final product itself. So this is testing. Yeah, let's see another one. What is it? איך אתה צומח בתלות בהשקעה כספית. אני חושב שפחות יותר עניתי על זה, אם עדיין לא ברור אז נחזור על זה. As I said, you get some investment after product market fit, and maybe you have some kind of initial investment, you know, after you nail down some assumptions like the problem and the customer and the solution in low fidelity, whatever, you may be getting some pre-seed or seed investment, that's fine. But the bigger investment is only after product market fit. And here, whenever we get this kind of investment, we need to put it for our growth engine. And the growth engine is another set of assumptions, meaning what is our way to the market, how can we grow? We can grow in multiple ways. We can grow by, for example, as I said before, a viral way. We can have some additional, there are a few growth engines. Viral is one of them. And in this case, we need some kind of proof that we nail down the viral coefficient and that it's more than one. Meaning every customer is bringing more customers and additional assumptions like this. Okay?
Rami, so
yes.
I think this is sums the questions for everyone. If you have any questions, do they have the email? They can approach your email, like to ask.
Yes, I think it's on the screen. It's Ramy Gazit 1.
Yes.
On gmail.com.
Okay, so guys, thank you very much for participating in our second webinar, and I really hope to see you on the next webinar. And thank you very much, Rami. It was a great lecture, and I hope I can get some of the materials and perhaps send it through the email later. that will be great. For instance, the IRL and the Lean Canvas as well. So it will be great. So thank you again, guys, and see you on our next event.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Rami. Guys, if you can still hear me, tomorrow check entrepreneurs in jeans, יזמים בג'ינס, שותפות חיפה בוסטון. They publish a very nice event. Yalla, bye bye. See you.